Push, Mrs. Johnson, I can see the head, the midwife urged, her voice cutting through the chaos. Rita stood beside the bed, her hands supposedly offering comfort to her best friend, but her eyes held something else entirely. Something cold, something calculating. She watched as Eunice's face contorted with pain, beads of sweat rolling down her forehead like tears she was too exhausted to cry. I can't do this anymore. Eunice gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, you can. Think about Lawrence. Think about your baby, Rita said, squeezing Eunice's hand. But behind her concerned expression, Rita's mind was spinning with possibilities she had been nurturing for months. The baby's cry filled the room suddenly, sharp and demanding. Eunice collapsed back onto the pillows, a weak smile spreading across her lips. It's a boy, the midwife announced, holding up the screaming infant. A healthy baby boy. Eunice tried to lift her head to see her son, but exhaustion pulled her back down. Let me hold him, she whispered. In just a moment, dear. We need to clean him up first, the midwife said, carrying the baby to the corner of the room where Rita had volunteered to help. What happened next would haunt Rita for the rest of her life, though she would never show it. In the chaos of the moment, with the midwife momentarily distracted by Eunice's sudden hemorrhaging, Rita made a choice that would destroy one family and elevate another. Rita's hands moved with practiced precision. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times. The lifeless baby she had secretly arranged to have brought to the hospital lay wrapped in an identical blanket in the bag she had claimed contained supplies for Eunice. As the midwife rushed to grab emergency equipment, her back turned to the corner where Rita stood with the crying newborn. Rita's heart pounded. She quickly unwrapped the healthy baby, his tiny fists waving in the air, his lungs strong and demanding. With trembling fingers, she wrapped him in a different blanket and slipped him into her large handbag. Then she lifted the cold, still form of the dead infant and placed him where Eunice's living son had been, wrapping him in the original blanket. The switch took less than 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds would alter the course of multiple lives forever. 3 hours later, Chief Lawrence Johnson burst through the hospital doors, his expensive shoes squeaking against the polished floor. He had rushed from an important board meeting the moment he received Rita's frantic call. Where is she? Where's my wife? He demanded, grabbing Rita by the shoulders. Rita's eyes were red and swollen, tears streaming down her cheeks. Lawrence, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? What happened? The baby. The baby didn't make it. And Eunice, she went into shock when they told her. She started bleeding, and the doctors couldn't stop it. Lawrence felt the world tilt beneath his feet. What do you mean the baby didn't make it? Rita, what are you saying? He was born, but he wasn't breathing. They tried everything, Lawrence. I was right there. I saw everything. Rita's voice broke convincingly. And when Eunice found out, her body just gave up. Lawrence pushed past her and ran toward the ward, but the doctor intercepted him, his face grave. Mr. Johnson, I'm deeply sorry for your loss. We did everything we could. I want to see them. I want to see my wife and my son. Of course, but sir, I must warn you. Your wife is very weak. The trauma of losing the baby and the complications during delivery, she may not have much time. Lawrence sat beside Eunice's bed for 6 agonizing hours, holding her cold hand as machines beeped around them. She never regained consciousness. As dawn broke through the hospital windows, Eunice Johnson, the love of his life, slipped away quietly. Rita stood in the doorway watching Lawrence grieve, the living baby she had stolen and handed over to 3 men she hired to dispose of it. But instead of carrying out her instructions, they abandoned the child in a marketplace. The guilt of what she had done should have consumed her, but all she could think about was the fortune that now lay within her reach. 2 years passed before Rita made her first real move. She had played the role of the grieving best friend perfectly, checking on Lawrence regularly, bringing him meals, listening to him talk about Eunice for hours. You know Eunice would want you to be happy, Rita said one evening as they sat in Lawrence's study, the room heavy with the scent of expensive whiskey and old leather. I don't think I'll ever be happy again, Rita. She was everything to me. But you're still young, Lawrence. You have so much life ahead of you. Rita moved closer on the sofa, her hand finding his. And you have so much love to give. Lawrence looked at their joined hands, confusion flickering across his face. Rita, what are you saying? I'm saying that life is for the living. And maybe Eunice sent me to take care of you. It took another year of careful manipulation, of being indispensable, of filling the void that Eunice's death had left behind. When Lawrence finally proposed, Rita accepted with tears of joy that were only half feigned. She did care for him in her way, but it was his wealth that had truly captured her heart. Their wedding was a grand affair, though Lawrence's smile never quite reached his eyes. On their wedding night, Rita lay beside her new husband and thought not of love, but of the empire she was now part of. Over the next 8 years, Rita gave Lawrence 4 children: Dominic, Sophia, Brian, and finally Tina. Each pregnancy strengthened her position in the household, but it was her children's behavior that would eventually become her downfall. Dominic, the eldest, inherited his mother's calculating nature, but none of her subtlety. At 22, he spent his days drinking with friends and his nights gambling away his allowance. "Father, I need more money," Dominic announced one morning, barging into Lawrence's home office where he was reviewing quarterly reports. "You received your allowance 3 days ago, Dominic. What happened to it?" "I invested it." "In what?" "A business opportunity." Lawrence looked up from his papers, his patience wearing thin. "What kind of business opportunity requires 50,000 naira in 3 days?" Dominic shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated, Father. You wouldn't understand. Try me. Look, can you just give me the money? I'll pay you back." "With what? You've never worked a day in your life." "Why should I work when my father owns half the city?" Lawrence set down his pen slowly. "Because money that isn't earned isn't valued. Because character isn't inherited, it's built. Spare me the lecture, old man. Just give me the money." The slap came so fast that Dominic stumbled backward, his hand flying to his cheek. Lawrence had never struck any of his children before. "Get out of my office, and don't come back until you're ready to show me some respect." Sophia and Brian proved to be cut from the same cloth as their older brother. Sophia, 20, had dropped out of university twice, claiming the courses were beneath her intelligence. Brian, 18, had been expelled from 3 different schools for fighting and theft. The only household staff who lasted more than a few months were those desperate enough to endure the constant humiliation the children dished out. "Please, Miss Sophia, I was only trying to clean your room," pleaded Mary, the housemaid, as Sophia berated her for moving a jewelry box 3 inches to the left. "Don't touch my things with your dirty hands," Sophia shrieked. "Mother, mother, come see what this idiot has done." Rita appeared in the doorway, but instead of correcting her daughter, she simply sighed. "Mary, please be more careful. Sophia's things are very expensive." "But Ma, I only moved it to dust the table." "Well, don't move it next time. Find a way to dust around it." Lawrence, returning from a business trip that evening, found Mary packing her belongings in the servants' quarters. "Mary, what's happening? Why are you packing?" "I'm sorry, sir. I can't work here anymore." "What happened?" Mary looked around nervously before speaking. "Your children, sir, they don't treat us well." Lawrence's jaw tightened. "Can you be more specific?" "Master Dominic threw a glass at me yesterday because his breakfast was 2 minutes late. Miss Sophia makes me redo her room 3 times a day. Master Brian, he steals money from my purse and then denies it when I complain. And my wife, what does she say when you report these incidents?" Mary's silence was answer enough. Only Tina, the youngest at 16, seemed to have inherited any of her father's character. She was in her final year of secondary school and dreamed of studying accounting at university. "Good morning, Mary," Tina said one morning, finding the maid in tears in the kitchen. "Oh, Miss Tina, good morning. What's wrong? You look upset." Mary wiped her eyes quickly. "It's nothing, miss, just tired." "It's my siblings, isn't it?" Mary's shocked expression confirmed what Tina already knew. "I'm sorry about them. They don't know how to treat people properly. It's not your fault, miss." "Maybe not, but I can still apologize. And I can make sure they don't bother you when I'm around." True to her word, Tina became a shield for the household staff whenever possible. She helped with chores when her parents weren't looking, shared her snacks with the gardener's children, and always said please and thank you. "You're different from your siblings," Lawrence observed one evening as he found Tina helping the cook prepare dinner. "I hope so, Father." "Why is that?" "Because I watch how they behave, and I watch how people react to them. Nobody respects them. Nobody likes them. They have money, but they have nothing else." Lawrence studied his youngest daughter with new appreciation. And what do you want to have? I want to be useful. I want to build something meaningful. I want people to respect me because of who I am, not what I have. Even if it means working hard, even if it means starting from the bottom. Especially then, Father. How else can you understand the value of what you've built? Michael was 28 when he first walked through the gates of the Johnson estate, his small duffel bag containing everything he owned. The woman who had hired him over the phone had warned him about the family, but he needed the job too desperately to be choosy. He had been raised by Mama Comfort and Papa James, two of the kindest people who had ever lived. They had found him as an infant, abandoned near the market, and had taken him home without a second thought. They had loved him, fed him, and educated him as far as their meager resources would allow. Now, with Papa James suffering from diabetes and Mama Comfort's arthritis getting worse, Michael needed to earn enough money to care for them properly. "You must be Michael," Rita said when he arrived, looking him up and down with barely concealed disdain. "I hope you understand the standards we expect in this house." "Yes, ma'am, I'll do my best." "Your best had better be exceptional. My children are accustomed to a certain level of service." Michael nodded, though something in her tone made his skin crawl. Lawrence was in his study when Michael knocked on the door that first evening. "Come in." "Excuse me, sir. I'm Michael, the new housekeeper. I wanted to introduce myself." Lawrence looked up from his papers and felt an odd sensation wash over him. There was something familiar about this young man, something that tugged at a memory he couldn't quite grasp. "Of course. Welcome to our home, Michael. I hope you'll be comfortable here." "Thank you, sir. I'll work hard, I promise." "I'm sure you will." Lawrence paused, studying Michael's face. "Tell me, how long have you been working as a housekeeper?" "This is my first time, sir, but I'm a fast learner and I really need this job." "Why do you need it so badly?" "My parents, sir, the ones who raised me, they're getting old and sick and I want to take care of them the way they took care of me." Lawrence felt something stir in his chest. "That's admirable, Michael. Family is everything." "Yes, sir, it is." As weeks turned into months, Lawrence found himself drawn to Michael in a way he couldn't explain. The young man worked tirelessly, never complained despite the constant abuse from Dominic, Sophia, and Brian, and always maintained his dignity. One evening, as Michael served Lawrence his dinner, Lawrence noticed something that made his breath catch in his throat. "Michael, may I see your left arm?" Michael looked confused but rolled up his sleeve. There, on his elbow, was a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon, exactly like Lawrence's own. "Where did you get that birthmark?" "I was born with it, sir. Mama Comfort always said it looked like God's smile." Lawrence's hands began to tremble. "Michael, tell me about your childhood. How did you come to live with Mama Comfort and Papa James?" "They found me, sir. When I was just a baby, someone had left me near the market, and they took me home." "Do you know anything about your real parents?" "No, sir. Mama Comfort and Papa James are my real parents. They're the ones who loved me and raised me." That night, Lawrence couldn't sleep. The birthmark, the age, the circumstances of Michael's abandonment, it all pointed to an impossible possibility. The next morning, he called his friend Dr. Emmanuel. "Emmanuel, I need you to do something for me. Quietly. I need a DNA test." "Lawrence, what's going on?" "I can't explain right now, but I need to know if Michael, our new housekeeper, is related to me." "Related to you, Lawrence? How is that possible?" "Just do the test, Emmanuel, please." Before the DNA results could come back, Lawrence decided to implement the plan he had been considering for months. He called his lawyer, Mr. Davidson, and Dr. Emmanuel to his office. "Gentlemen, I need your help with something. I want to test my children to see which of them has the character to inherit my businesses." "What kind of test?" Mr. Davidson asked. "I'm going to pretend that my companies have gone bankrupt, that all my assets have been frozen. I want to see how they react, how they behave when they think the money is gone." Dr. Emmanuel frowned. "Lawrence, that seems cruel." "What's cruel is raising children who think the world owes them everything. I need to know who among them has the strength and character to carry on what I built." The plan was set in motion the following week. Lawrence called a family meeting, gathering everyone in the living room, including the household staff. "I have something to tell you all," Lawrence began, his voice heavy with feigned defeat. My companies are in trouble, serious trouble. Due to some bad investments and market changes, everything I've built is collapsing. My assets have been frozen, and we may lose everything. The reaction was immediate and telling. What do you mean everything? Dominic demanded. What about my car, my allowance? How could you let this happen? Sophia shrieked. I have a lifestyle to maintain. Brian simply stared in shock, his face pale with panic. Rita's response was the most revealing of all. Lawrence, tell me you have money hidden somewhere. Tell me you saw this coming and prepared for it. Only Tina stepped forward, placing her hand on her father's shoulder. Father, I believe in you. You built this empire once. You can build it again. And don't worry about my school fees. I have some money saved up. We'll figure this out together. Michael, standing with the other staff members, watched the family's reaction with disgust and sadness. Later, as he helped Lawrence to his room, he spoke quietly. Sir, I know it's not my place to say this, but I want you to know that some of us staff members have been talking. If you need anything, if there's any way we can help, we will. You've been good to us. Lawrence looked at this young man who might be his son and felt his heart break and swell at the same time. The crisis deepened when Sophia collapsed at home one evening, bleeding heavily. At the hospital, doctors discovered she had undergone a botched abortion and needed an immediate blood transfusion. We need to test family members for blood compatibility, the doctor explained as Sophia lay unconscious on the operating table. Lawrence and Rita were both tested, but neither of their blood types matched Sophia's. This is impossible, the doctor said, looking at the results. Neither parent is compatible. We'll have to find a donor from the blood bank. Lawrence stared at the test results, his mind reeling. Doctor, can you test the other children as well? I need to understand what's happening here. Of course, sir. When all the results came back, Lawrence felt his world tilt on its axis. Only Tina was his biological child. Dominic, Sophia, and Brian belonged to someone else entirely. I want DNA tests for all of them, Lawrence told Dr. Emanuel that night, and I want one for Michael as well. Lawrence, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The DNA results arrived a week later. Lawrence read them alone in his study, his hands shaking as the truth unfolded before him. Michael was his son, his and Eunice's son, the baby who was supposed to have died 30 years ago. The other three children shared no DNA with Lawrence, but they were biologically related to each other. Rita had been having an affair throughout their marriage. Lawrence sat in his study for hours processing the magnitude of Rita's betrayal. She had stolen his real son, replaced him with a dead baby, caused Eunice's death from grief, and then infiltrated his life to steal his fortune. But Michael was alive. His son was alive. That evening, Lawrence called another family meeting. This time, Dr. Emanuel and Mr. Davidson were present as witnesses. I have some news, Lawrence began, his voice steady and strong. First, the bankruptcy was a test. My companies are fine. My wealth is intact. Relief flooded the faces of Rita and the three older children. However, Lawrence continued, the test revealed more than I expected. It revealed the truth about this family. He looked directly at Rita, whose face was beginning to show fear. 30 years ago, you stole my son from the hospital and replaced him with a dead baby. You caused my wife's death and then manipulated your way into my life to steal my fortune. Rita's face went white. Lawrence, what are you talking about? The DNA tests, Rita, they don't lie. Lawrence turned to Michael, who stood in shock near the back of the room. Michael, you are my son, my biological son with Eunice. Michael felt his knees buckle. Tina gasped and ran to embrace him. As for the rest of you, Lawrence continued, looking at Dominic, Sophia, and Brian, you are not my children. You belong to whoever Rita was having an affair with during our marriage. You can't do this, Dominic shouted. We've lived here our whole lives. Lives built on lies and theft, Lawrence replied. You have 1 week to leave this house. Rita, you'll get nothing in the divorce except what the court mandates for the children who are actually yours. As chaos erupted around him, Lawrence walked over to Michael and placed his hand on his shoulder. Son, I know this is overwhelming. And I know Mama Comfort and Papa James are your real parents in every way that matters. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try to be your father too. Michael looked at this man who had shown him more kindness in a few months than he had received from anyone except his adoptive parents. "I'd like that, sir. I'd like that very much." 6 months later, Michael and Tina stood together in the boardroom of Johnson Group of Companies as Lawrence signed over controlling interest to both of them. "You've both shown me what real character looks like," Lawrence said. "Michael, your loyalty and work ethic despite how you were treated. Tina, your integrity and compassion even when you thought we had lost everything." As they left the building that day, Michael thought about the strange turns his life had taken. He had started as a housekeeper, looking for work to care for his aging parents, and now he was heir to a fortune. But more than that, he had found his sister, his father, and his true place in the world. The truth, as painful as it had been to uncover, had finally set them all free. And so, dear viewers, this story reminds us that no lie lasts forever, no greed goes unpunished, and no act of love, no matter how small, is ever wasted. Rita's 30-year deception collapsed under the weight of truth, while Michael's humility and Tina's kindness rewrote their destinies. Let this be a lesson. Wealth without character is empty. Family isn't just blood, it's loyalty. And no matter how far evil strays, justice always finds its way home. If you've ever been wrong, trust time. If you've ever doubted kindness, trust its power. And if this story moved you, share it. Because the world needs reminders that good still wins. Until next time, stay wise and stay hopeful. The end.